What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Bryce, and today I'm reading chapter 52 of the Parker Inheritance. This is the last chapter of this book. So yeah, let's begin. Chapter 52, Abigail Caldwell, 2007. Abigail Caldwell hated not having a job. She had been working for as long as she could remember, even when she was in college, raising her 2 kids on her own. Even when she was obtaining her master's degree, she had a number of jobs over the years, but had never taken a break between them. She'd never been unemployed until now. Officially, she had resigned due to mismanagement of city resources. Officially, she had mistakenly directed one of her maintenance crews to dig up the tennis courts at Vickers Park. Unofficially, she was fired because of a secret letter that no one except her wanted to investigate. At first, she assumed the letter was a hoax. Then she asked around. She heard about the infamous tennis match of 1957. She learned who Enoch Washington was and how he was driven from the city. Slowly but surely, the hoax gained credibility. It took a lot of late nights and early mornings, but she began to unravel the mysteries of the letter. She discovered that Enoch loved baseball, and she saw the photo of Leanne Washington holding a pie when it was still hanging in the church reception hall, not hidden in a dark, dusty closet. She found Siobhan's name on the plaque on the park bench, a plaque still fresh and new. She learned that James Parker, a millionaire who had just disappeared, was responsible for all these improvements within the city. Then she became stuck. So she dug up the tennis court. It seemed like the right move. Enoch Washington loved tennis. So did his daughter. And the tennis court and the courts had been dedicated to him. Sure, she hadn't found a link to Parker and the actual construction of the tennis courts at Vickers Park in 1985, but she couldn't see any other solution. So she dug up the ground, hoping to find a treasure. And then she was fired. She retreated to her daughter's house in Atlanta to lick her wounds and plan her next move. She hadn't even packed up her house in Lambert. She just disappeared, not even telling her neighbors that she left. But if there was one benefit to being unemployed, it was that she had all the time in the world to spend with her favorite person, her beautiful granddaughter, Candace. One Saturday morning, a week or so after she resigned, Abigail babysat her granddaughter while Anne and Joe met with yet another counselor, perhaps hoping this time they would hear something different about their relationship. Abigail had set up Candace's play kitchen in the living room, and the 2-year-old happily made broccoli and ice cream pizzas and served soda and lemonade to all of her stuffed animals sitting on the couch. Abigail stood when the doorbell buzzed about an hour later. Peeking through the peephole, she saw a tall, lanky older man standing on the doorstep. A Denver Broncos cap sat low on his head. Aviator sunglasses hid his eyes. Freckles spotted his nose. His goatee was stark white. She opened the door. Hello? Hi, I'm looking for Abigail Caldwell. She couldn't quite catch his accent. Perhaps it was Southern, but she wasn't sure. This is she. She wondered how he even knew where she was. So what happened at Vickers Park? He asked. What were you doing? Looking for buried treasure? She tensed up. Who are you, a lawyer? She began to shut the door. I don't have time for wait, he said, sticking his foot in the doorway. I'm not a lawyer. I'm here to help. Well, unless you know where I can find a new job, or you are on the right path, but you must have made a mistake, he said, or as Siobhan's mother used to say, just because you don't see the path doesn't mean it's not there. She pulled the door open. You knew Siobhan Washington? I did. He cleared his throat. May I come in? Abigail studied him for a few moments, trying to decide. She stared at herself in the reflection in his glasses. Who are you? The man removed his sunglasses, greeting with her big, round, angry gray eyes. None of the other four even attempted to solve the puzzle, did they? The cowards. How do you know that face, those eyes? It clicked in her head. James Parker? He took off his hat. Now may I come in? Abigail quickly opened the door wider. Parker looked around as he entered the house. Your daughter has a beautiful home. Are she and her husband meeting with their new counselor? How do you know? I make it my business to know things. He paused at the entrance to the living room. And this must be your granddaughter, Candace. Abigail rushed past Parker and sped toward the couch. She helped Candace to her feet and nudged her toward her toy kitchen in the corner. Why don't you go over there and play for a while? Okay, the girl said in a sing-song voice as she scooped up her animals and walked away. Abigail motioned for Parker to have a seat. That's correct. None of the others wanted to pursue the letter, she said. They told me it was a hoax. They were lying. He placed his hat over his knee. All four of the others were born in Lambert, he said. One was even there the night of the tennis game. But you risked everything for a city you owe nothing to. Why? Why would you risk that? Abigail fiddled with her fingers. It was my job, she finally said. Businesses are struggling and the economy is down. Got a point. People are hurting, especially in Vista Heights. If there was even a chance, I had to try. That's why I was hired in the first place, to manage the city, to protect the city, and the people still living in it. You are a fool, he said, but perhaps the world needs more fools, he sighed. Next week you will receive a call from an associate of mine in College Park. She wants to interview you for a job. When I told her about your qualifications, she leapt at the chance. I don't understand. Why you want a Coke? Abigail turned. Candace walked toward them, her arms full of plastic toy Coca-Cola bottles. But instead of heading to her grandmother, Candace was on a beeline to James Parker. Candace, Abigail began, reaching out to her. I thought I asked you to play over there. Candace, even with wobbly legs, was deceptively fast. She ran past her grandmother, slipping around her outreached arms, and made her way to Parker. Candace dropped everything in her hands, everything except a lone plastic toy soda bottle. Want a Coke? She asked again, offering it to him. It's fee. Abigail shook her head. She means free. Parker stared at the girl for a long time. Candace wore a red dress that was much too long for her short legs. She also wore a matching red plastic bracelet on her arm. Her name had been embossed on the bracelet in glittery silver, making it shimmer. Parker finally took the bottle from the girl. He brought it to his mouth, then made a gulping sound as he pretended to drink it down. Smiling, he handed it back to her. Thank you. That was the best Coke I've had in a long time, sweetheart. No, she shook her head. I'm Candace. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Parker bent down close to Candace's ear and whispered something to her. Then he pulled back and shook her hand. It was a pleasure meeting you, Candace. We go swinging. Wanna come? She asked. Candace, leave the man alone. Abigail stood up and pulled her granddaughter away from the couch. Please excuse her. I promised to take her to the park after a nap. Parker looked at Candace. I would love to go, he said, but I can't push kids on the swings like I used to. When he winked. Good thing you have a grandma to help you. I bet she's the best swing pusher in the world. Then he stood. I should be leaving, he said, placing his hat on his head. Thank you both. Abigail walked him to the door. Mr. Parker, I don't understand. You and your granddaughter are very close, aren't you? He asked. She nodded. What about you and your daughter? Do you two get along? Well enough, Abigail said, though that was further from the truth. Take the job, the man said after opening the door. Be close to the ones you love. At the end, that's all that really matters. Facts. Wait, she said, Mr. Parker, I have more questions. The man puts his sunglasses back on. Nice meeting you, Miss Caldwell. And I'm not James Parker. Not anymore. His mouth curled into a smile. Abigail, I missed this part, but ask your granddaughter. She knows who I am. Abigail watched as the man crossed the yard. He slipped into a small white car, then sped away. She locked the door and returned to the living room. Candace was making another pizza. Sweetheart Candace, the girl corrected. Yes, of course. Abigail knelt in front of her granddaughter, Candace. What was that man's name? Who? The man who was just here. He drank your soda? She placed her hands on her granddaughter's shoulders. What was his name? Eggy? Eddie? Her grandmother asked. Candace shook her head. No, Eggy. Freddie? Teddy? The girl kept repeating his name, and Abigail kept guessing. Try as she might, the man's name remained a mystery. 2 days later, there was another knock on the door. Abigail flew through the house, determined to reach the door before anyone else. But it was James Parker, or whomever he was calling himself. It was a delivery man. He carried a package addressed to her. She opened the box to find a card and a small aluminum bracelet. She quickly read the note on the card. This is what it said. Because everyone deserves a second chance. Good luck with the interview. I'm sure you'll do well. The card, of course, was unsigned. Abigail took a closer look at the bracelet. The letters MS were stamped on the outside. Mississippi, she thought. Of course Parker would know. She'd been there. She'd been born there. He seemed to know everything about her. On the inside of the bracelet was the word love. Perhaps in love of her family, for her granddaughter? Abigail had no idea what Parker had truly been giving her. It was a second chance, but not for the job, for his inheritance. But while Abigail was a great administrator and fair leader, she was not made to solve puzzles. The next day, Abigail turned the bracelet over and over in her hands, thinking about the letter and Parker and what she could have missed. She had been thinking about the mystery all night, but she just couldn't put it together. A laugh from the floor in front of her made her pick her head up. Candace was playing in the beach ball globe again. Abigail had bought Candace the globe a few weeks ago. She wanted her to get a jump starting on learning the countries. She knew this was unrealistic, but she was also a grandmother, and part of her hope, her only granddaughter was a genius in the making. The first time Abigail had given the globe to her, Candace turned it over so the North Pole was on the bottom and Antarctica was on the top. Whenever Abigail tried to correct her, Candace would roll the ball right back over. But it's the wrong way, Abigail finally said after 5 minutes of this. Candace looked at the ball, then at her grandmother. Why? Well, because the words are upside down. Of course, this didn't matter to Candace. She couldn't read. But on that day, as Abigail watched Candace turn the ball upside down again, she asked herself, why was it wrong? Why was it wrong? In space, who knows what is up and down? What made the map maker's perspective any better than Candace's? She was sure he hadn't been to space either. Abigail thought back to her time and Lambert. The mayor had forced her to destroy all the research, but she had been able to hold on to the letter. Now that she knew what to do with it. She looked at Candace again as she played in her toy kitchen. She sat on the globe. North pointed down. Maybe that was the problem. Abigail was set in her ways, locked into a limited point of reference. Perhaps the letter had to be solved by someone with a new perspective, someone who could see the letter, history, the world, from a different point of view. Not now, of course. Later, when she was older, when she was ready, Abigail would leave Candace the letter and offer just enough of a hint, just enough of a clue to catch her granddaughter's attention. Abigail wouldn't force it on her. It would be Candace's choice to try to unravel the mystery, but perhaps she'd give her granddaughter a running start. Abigail walked to Candace's room and grabbed a box from the top of the closet. It was a puzzle she bought for Candace for Christmas. 100 pieces of ages 4 and up. Her father had put the puzzle aside, thinking Candace was too young for it. She returned to the living room and dumped the pieces on the coffee table. Candace abandoned her play kitchen and walked over to her grandmother. "It's a puzzle?" she asked, still using that sing-song voice toddlers use. "Yes, it is," her grandmother said, "but it's a little hard." "There are a lot of pieces. Can I help?" Candace asked. Abigail pushed her lucky bracelet farther up her arm, then hoisted her granddaughter into her lap. "Yes," she said, handing her the first piece of the puzzle. "Yes, you can." And that is the book, guys. So, yep, I am finished with the book, The Parker Inheritance, written by Varian Johnson. So, yep, I enjoy reading this book. So, next summer, I'll be reading a different book. And if you enjoyed that series, make sure you like and subscribe. And, yep, that's about it. Peace out.